Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Eltel Cockerel. Show for today is about the pre-season with Dave and Ashmatic. Dave, how are you?
Yeah, I'm in fantastic form, my man. I can't complain. A few transfers would boost my mood, so hopefully they come in.
And Ash, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I can't complain, man. Health is wealth. And yeah, I feel good, man. So yes, get the show running. Big up to everyone watching at home or wherever you're watching around the world. And thanks for having me on, Jose. And good to see you, Irish.
Fantastic. Right, so I'm just going to say hello to a few people. They're in the chat at the moment, and then we'll tell people what we're doing with the show today. So some people have commented, but the comments have gone, so I'm going to have to start from what we've got. We've got David Shear saying, G'day, Cobber. He slept to be up for this. Scott says, big up Ash and Jose. Hope you have a good show. We've got Adrian here. Good afternoon, Jose, the panel et al. Anime is Collins. Got another channel, Anime channel, and he's saying hello. He might not be able to watch. Ryan G is saying big up Jose Ash and the Irish Hotspur. Daniel Coys is a big up from him. Scott Colliver, hello from the middle of the night because Scott's out in Australia. Mark Cook says big up Alan to all on the panel and the chat. Scott Hyman, big up all Coys. AJ, big up Jose. Lisa O says big up guys and good afternoon. Good afternoon, Lisa. Destiny 5 says, as always, got a fresh trim. um, AJ says big up Dave as well, and to big up Ash. Alan, Rakdos Madness says, hi Jose, Ash and Dave. Wonderful to see you three. And Destiny 5 now says big up everyone. Right, so told the gentleman I've got 5 questions that we're going to go off, and in the meantime, apart from the 5 questions to the people in the chat, if you've got any questions that you want to ask anyone from the panel, mark them with a Q, who you want to ask the question to, and if we've got time, we will answer your questions. So without further ado, the first question I was going to ask is youngsters. It's all about pre-season, so it's about our youngsters, what the thoughts are, and crystal gazing from you guys and your thoughts on what these youngsters may or may not be doing this coming season. The reason why I wanted to pose this is because I'm in a chat in one of the groups with you two guys, and I saw a show, and on the show, I think Dave, you turned around and said that people weren't giving enough kudos to the youngsters. So with that, I wanted to get your opinions, both of you, on this. Like I said, the youngsters, your thoughts on them, and crystal gazing, like what's going to be up and coming for this season. Dave, I'm going to go to you because you're the man with the youngsters. You love the youngsters.
Yeah, look, first of all, I think what I'm seeing is many people may be questioning youngsters or putting them down because I think it's more to do with their problem with leaving the way the club is being run. And I feel like sometimes, it's not, you can't separate things. And I feel like we should be praising the youth we've had. We've got the best bunch of youth we've had at this club for about 10, 15 years, if not more. And we've got it in abundance. And it's okay to say that they're good, but it's also okay to acknowledge that we also need more signings to be able to guide these guys along and help these guys along and not put so much pressure on them and give them time to be able to, blend themselves basically into the first team and stuff like that. I think we've got an amazing bunch of youngsters. And look, I'm not naive. I'm not stupid enough to know that, they're not going to carry us to a title. But they can help us get there, by being able to build out a squad. One of Tottenham's problems over the last few years is if we've had barely just a good 11 on the pitch, and everyone outside that has been absolutely shit. And whenever we've called upon them or used them, we keep getting the same answers. They keep getting letting us down. The football turns turgid. They can't get results. Results drop. And then when we do get our best players back, because we've dropped off so far, their motivation is completely gone, because it's like they're just trying to salvage the best of a bad situation. Whereas these youngsters, if we fill out the squad, we should be able to fill out the periphery of the squad with a couple of these youngsters hunting down the first team places. That's what all good squads do. They have a good base of about 22, 24 players and then have a couple of youngsters chasing them down and keeping them honest. And that's the way it should be. Also, let's not forget, we have a huge homegrown problem at this football club. I've been speaking about it for about 3 to 4 years now, that the players we use are not good enough, and half of them are being kept around for box ticking exercises. And what that does is it leaves you automatically with half a squad that's nowhere near good enough. We should be looking to be able to develop these guys, the best ones, bring them through. They'll qualify as homegrown, which means you've got a very good core strength of a homegrown quarter to work off, which then you should be able to fill out your squad and have a really competitive squad all the way through. So I feel like we should be giving a lot of these guys the praise, and we should be pushing for the club to start developing these youngsters.
Ash?
I don't think there's a problem with the actual youngsters. I think it's the timing. And last season, when Ange was fresh out and he was fresh with a new project, there was a belief that he was going to be the one to play the youngsters. And also we were going to scout heavily in the Asian market. So we're going to get like unknown players, etc. So that was the mood after looking at maybe Celtic, maybe looking at his background from Japan, you know, Yokohama, how he played it, you know, how he dealt with the Japanese. So I think amongst the fans, there was a type of optimism that, all right, we're going to see something different here to what we had before. I mean, I remember when Conte was in charge and we got Jed Spence was bought, and then we were told it was a club signing, and we never got to see Jed Spence. So people were crying out for young players as far back as then. And then even when Mourinho was had a chance to play Parrott, and the fans would say, play Parrott. And then Mourinho was like, he's not ready. He's not quite match fit yet for this particular level. Then fast forward to this season with Ange, or sorry, the season just gone, I apologize. I think the problem was we were playing players we knew that weren't good or ready for his systems, and maybe were going to be pushed out the door. So you had the likes of Højbjerg coming into the squad. You had a few other players as well that were getting looks over some of our youngsters. So Donnelly was on the bench. I remember Ashley Phillips was on the bench. And I remember just doing like pump-ups with Dave, and we're being excited thinking, oh, you know, they're not starting, but at least they're on the bench. Maybe we get to see a young Dorrington. Dorrington made the squad as well. And then every time there was an opportunity, that never happened. It was always like you saw Lo Celso on before. You might see Højbjerg on before. You might even see a Skip. Do you know what I mean? You might even see a Skip before him. And we're like, we've got the talent there. Why isn't Ange using the youngsters then when we had less ambition, not less ambition, but less expectation? And I feel like off the back of this season, he's come out and he's saying that I want to challenge, you know, I want to go for a title. I'm not coming here to do this top four malarkey or third or whatever. I want to come and, you know, put my foot down. And so I think with some fans, we're like, okay, cool. You know what? You're going to talk tough. You're going to come out with your whole entire chest. I'm here for it. So then when we start hearing the ambition and we start getting linked with young players coming through, we're like, all right, cool. We've got young players coming in and we've got our academy boys as well. But you start to worry if like we're not sprinkling it with a bit of experience. So I don't think there's necessarily a problem with young players if we were just saying, look, we finished where we finished. You know what I mean? We're trying to improve what we did last season, but we want to give these youngsters a chance. Then people would have an understanding of what type of club we are and what type of season we're going for. There'll be some type of vision moving forward, in my opinion. So I think the youngsters coming through, though, if I'm being totally honest, they look good. Like the youngsters do look good. There are question marks whether they can get how they will work at this level when it comes to Premiership level or when they're tested in cup runs, because for a lot of fans, they see the cup runs as very important. The fans lost their minds when we got knocked out in the League Cup, and Ange made 8 changes, and none of them were youth players. It was players like we knew were going to go, like Sanchez. He brought Sanchez in. You're thinking, right, one of the young guys could have come in. One of the young lads could have played in Sanchez's position. A couple of weeks later, Sanchez is sold. So it's things like that where we look up and down. What is the direction we're going in? It's a bit of confusion at the moment. And so there's a bit of unsettledness on the youth players. We've had young players that have been knocking around for a long time as well. And we're not sure if they're going to make the actual step up, or if the club will allow them to make the step up, because there's now competition, which is a good thing, because you've got Lancashire, who now has been impressing the actual staff members at Tottenham Hotspurs. And we've got Dane Scarlett that's been knocking around for a long time. And so you're like, Belize has been brought in last season, and everyone's like, oh, hang on a second. We brought a youngster in, but then is he going to get the game time? All of a sudden, January comes and he's shipped off. And we thought we had higher hopes for that youngster getting minutes and maybe swapping around with a Richarlison if Richarlison wasn't fit. And then all of a sudden, Son's being played as a number 9. So then I think it's those mixed messages are coming through again. We're like, is that going to happen again? Is the same thing going to happen again? We've bought Archie Gray now, who we thought was going to be either a right back or a midfielder, and they're starting to play him centre back. Now, I know that when you're playing some of these guys, you're just trying to give them minutes. You're trying to get them fit. You're just trying to get them used to the intensity and the strength of the league. That's what you're trying to do in these pre-seasons. So I'm not too fast or too worried about it. But you just look at past things. I remember we bought John Bostock from Crystal Palace. I was quite excited about that because there was a lot of hype around him. And I was like, oh, we've got this kid in from Palace. He's 17, 18. He's going to be the next big thing. And we managed to get this wonder kid. And then from there, you didn't really hear anything. It's kind of like, and I think some people have got that recent memory of Jack Clark. He was meant to be a wonder kid. He was a right winger, could take his man on, dribbly. Like, he's got a lot of ability about him. And he didn't really get the chance. But then obviously he's gone to a different club and he looks like a good guy now. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, are we going to give that pathway to these players? And now we've got this transfer market coming in. Who's to say we're not going to get players in that are winning now, already now, and it blocks up some of the pathway for some of the youngsters? Like, I know we're going for, I know we're going to be trying a lot of them in Europa, because that's what we do with Harry Kane, you know, Mason, and some of the other youngsters got their chance in those competitions. So I expect that to happen as well. But some people are saying, actually, no, we should be going for Europa. Like, maybe we should have more senior players. We don't want to throw away another cup. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's that up and down with the youngsters. I don't think there's an actual problem with the youngsters, but I think there's some distrust from some parts of the fan base because of things that's happened in the past. Do you know what I mean? A bit of baggage, I'd say. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't even say some parts. I would say the majority of the fan base are concerned that we haven't brought in, proven players to be able to come and improve the actual issues that we need in the first 11. But I feel like that sometimes, because of the way the club has been run over the last, some people date it back 21 years and the mistakes that we've made, since Pochettino, I feel like as soon as something happens, everyone's always pulling it out to have a pop at the club, and sometimes common sense doesn't prevail. For instance, the Valise one where he went out last January, the club didn't ship him out because they had no plan for him. Bad business from the club before is the reason why he got shipped out. Dane Scarlett was sent back by Ipswich from loan because, they didn't want him anymore. And he couldn't be sent back out anywhere else because you can't play, it's FIFA rules state, you can't play for 3 clubs in one season. And because we played him in the cup against Fulham earlier on in the season, he already played 2 games. So we had, because of bad decisions in years gone by, we ended up having to loan Valise out because Dane Scarlett came back to the club. And because of squad registration reasons after his arrival back and stuff like that. So I do feel like that sometimes, common sense doesn't prevail on things. Like, for instance, this, like with the youth, I get people's distrust, but we're going back and bringing up the likes of Jack Clark, John Bostock. Look, I get it, right? We've all been haunted by the lack of trophies. I'm fully with you guys on that. It pisses me off. People don't think I want to sit here and lift silverware too. Of course I do. However, when Paratici came, I said, you know what? I'm gonna give this guy a chance to build it. I may not be giving you honest, but I'm gonna give this guy a chance to try and put it right, because at some point you have to give somebody an opportunity, whether it's a manager or something else, and give them a chance to try and fix things instead of always pulling them out for criticism and stuff like that. Ange Postecoglou last season, yes, I agree with you. We could have went and used the youth at some point, and I wanted him to. But on reflection, when I look back at it, How's he supposed to build his squad going into this season to challenge if he doesn't test the backup players and see who's with him, who's not, who can fit his system, who doesn't? I get us fans have been burnt by them in the past, but he hasn't. And every new manager we bring in here has to give them the opportunity. It's the way he works, and it's the way he's worked at every other club. So sometimes I do feel like common sense does sometimes have to prevail in some of these analyses rather than just dig the club out for absolutely everything. And don't get me wrong, I have plenty of gripes with the football club, you know, and actually I share a lot of your gripes with them in terms of, you know, the failings in years gone by, you know, us not bringing it, us not being more active in this market and stuff like that. But sometimes I do think there has to be a bit of understanding. We have to give someone a chance to build it. And we can't constantly pull down and look for the negative in every single thing they're doing when we know that they're trying their best under an ownership that puts restraints on them. So sometimes I feel like we should actually be backing the guys inside the club more and stop getting everything mixed up. And I feel like it's the same with the youth. People you hear going, but they're not good enough. They're never going to get us to a title and stuff like that. And I feel like it's getting swept up with people's animosity towards the club. And I feel like you can separate the two. These are youngsters with the whole career ahead, very talented. We should be able to sit there and say, do you know what? Let's ask the club to forge these apart way. Let's get them through. Who doesn't want another Ledley King? Who doesn't want another Harry Kane? But also turn around to the club and say, look, that forward line still needs improving. Go and get the signings. And what it does then, it lays a higher bar for these players to reach, you know, to be able to get into the first team. And if they don't, okay, then you do what modern day clubs are doing, like City and Chelsea. You sell them off for 30, 40, 50 million a pop, which adds to your transfer kitty in the future.
I think also, just to add on to your point, the reason why there might be some distrust is that we're not sure if, like, I think some of the youngsters will get a chance, but I'm not sure if all of them will make or get a chance. I think quite a few of them will go out on loan, and rightly so, just to get a few more minutes and a chance for the club to have another look at them. So, like, who's to say, for example, Alfie Devine doesn't go back on loan, or an Ashley Phillips goes back out on loan and gets minutes elsewhere. So I think there's a thing where you can look at it and think, will all of these players get a chance? Maybe not, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Even like Hall might get loaned out this season, and he might get some minutes elsewhere, which is a positive thing in my opinion. If they're not going to play a lot of these youth, but we get clubs and we find clubs that are playing maybe similar to our system, not necessarily similar, but they're going to get minutes. And, you know, we don't have situations, like you said before, where Scarlett is not necessarily getting the minutes, he's getting dropped, manager doesn't fancy him, because that does happen. It's a part of football, it's part of the process. But if we can get like loans for them, I think what it is like, and it's a good situation at the moment. You've got Scarlett, as I said before, you've got Valise, and you've got Lancashire. So between the three, they're going to have to battle it out to say, look, I think I should be the one that takes the mantle up and gets first team football at Spurs this coming season. And I think that's healthy for the individuals, and it helps to improve them as well. It depends on what happens with Richarlison, like what's going on there. And it depends on how far and how well we do in the cup competitions, how many minutes they get in. And I think if they prove themselves on that stage, then they get the chance in the league, and they might get more than 10 to 15 minutes to prove themselves, because Lancashire, so far from what I've seen in the friendlies, has only got like 22 minute cameos.
22 in the first game, 21 in the second game.
Okay, cool. So there you go. So for me, it's a thing where, yeah, these kids have got to prove themselves that they can do it at the next level. And I'm sure in these next pre-season games, we're going to see a lot more of the youngsters. I just think because we've had so much heartbreak and people can't see the pathway and what's going on, and there's a bit of distrust, I think that's where the concerns lay, that we can't just rely on the youth, because so far we've bought an 18 and 18 and a 18-year-old. Yeah, 3 18-year-olds. So I think that's where the panic's coming in. Not for me personally. I'm personally not panicking, but I just feel like for some fans, they don't see what the vision is. Me personally, I haven't seen Archie Gray yet, so I can't comment on him. But I can tell you who excites me, because it says youngsters thoughts crystal gazing. Bergwall for me excites me from what I've seen. I saw him against Hearts, quality on the ball, and in against QPR for the little 10 minutes or 15 minutes I said, yeah, this guy understands where to be on the pitch, and he knows when to speed it up, when to slow it down. He has vision. He's quick upstairs, so he can make that decision a little bit easier, and knows when to carry the ball, etc. I won't bore you with everything I saw, but I think that's the type of player we need, where someone can slow the game down, where we play 100 miles per hour, so we don't lose possession in the midfield. And I was listening to an interview when he was saying he sees himself as an 8, which means he's competition to everyone in that midfield. Do you know what I mean? So I like the way he picked the ball off the goalkeeper, pretending to be like a number 6, pick the ball up and then pick up the fullback, and then playing balls through. I just said, yeah, this is the type of player that's comfortable on the ball and wants it as well. Shows a bit of character. So yeah, that's my thought on some of the youngsters.
Can I just 10 minutes ago this came through, but I just want to say David Shearer's gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much, David. It's very, very kind of you. And they've gone to Just a Harmless Potato, Destiny 5, Mark Cook, Lisa O, AJ, Darren West, Paddy Hartnett, Danny Reese, Steve D, and have I lost my train of thought where I was? I have to go back and have a look. Steve D, sorry. Lee Smithy Smith. So, and some of you are in the chat, and I can see that some of you have thanked David. David, thank you very much for your generosity. It's much appreciated, and I will speak to you soon, sir. With the crystal gazing, I've prepared these questions when I invited you both at the start of the week and that. But since then, crystal gazing now, you know, you're talking about youngsters. It broke about 8 hours ago that they'd arranged a game for a friendly behind closed doors today. Well, that game apparently is just finished. You're aware of the score, boys?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so Jamie Imber has just posted it up. Says Tottenham beat Japan Youth International side 5-2 in today's behind closed doors friendly. Will Lancashire got 2, Mikey Moore got 2, and Alejo Veliz got 1. No surprise there. Mikey Moore, Lancashire on the score sheet. Surprise with Veliz, because I've not seen Veliz score a goal since Brighton. So it's a surprise for me there. But when I was doing the crystal gazing, you both told us your thoughts on the players. Crystal gazing, you said a bit, Ash, about crystal gazing. But as we stand now on the 25th of July, we know that there's still another 5 and a bit weeks of the window to go. 3 and a bit weeks till the season starts. Of these youngsters, doing a bit of crystal gazing, and I know you named some players already. How many of these players, and I'll start with you, Dave, because you watch a lot of the under-21s. How many of these players do you think at this moment in time will go back to the under-21s or back into the academy football? How many will stay with the first team, and how many do you think will go out on loan, roughly? No, exactly. It's only your opinion. So.
Yeah, I can't put an exact number on. Look, for me, I think you might see 3, 4 kept around on the periphery, you know, and people forget they don't have to be registered in the Premier League 25-man squad. Because they're only 21, you can keep as many of them around as you want. So effectively, you can actually make a 25-man squad into a 30-man squad if these guys are good enough and chomping at the bit. So I think Bergwall will be kept around for sure. Archie Gray will be kept around for sure. Mikey Moore, I think, will be kept around for sure. I think Donnelly, I think, is going to be kept around as well. I think the fact that Andrew's playing him at left back, I would envision that there's chances in his natural position coming up for him to be able to shine and impress. Outside of that, I think, you know, I really like Tyrese Hall. I have a sneaky suspicion we might see him in around, but then again, he could go on loan. Will Lancashire literally depends on whether Spurs bring in another striker or not. If they don't, it'll be him and Veliz battling out. One will stay, one will go out on loan. I think Scarlett will probably go out on loan as well. Dorrington, he won't be going anywhere because he's still returning from his hamstring injury that he suffered last season and the surgery from it. So he won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So he'll be kept around until he's sort of back match fit. And, you know, Ange Postecoglou did single Dorrington out for praise last year, actually. So maybe one to watch. And I think Ashley Phillips will probably go out on loan as well, to be brutally honest with you. I would like him to be kept around as another option, but if Ben Davies stays, which I think he will, I think means Phillips will probably, and with Darlington being staying around to get to full fitness, I think Phillips will probably end up going out on loan, and then Keeley will probably go out on loan, and I think Gunter, it's a hard one with Gunter because he's a very good goalkeeper, but did they keep him around and play him under 21s and keep developing him, or did they look to get him out into men's football straight away? It's a hard one there, but I think you'll probably see 4 max being kept around, but it's better 4 more than what we had in years gone by.
I think because we're in Europa and there's this whole club trained thing floating around, I reckon that we might keep some of the goalkeepers just to fulfill that.
But you've got Whiteman and Austin there though for that, don't you?
Yeah, we got Whiteman and Austin, and I'm just trying to think who else do we have as club trained?
Skip.
That's 3. So then who's the 4th?
The 4th one was.
So that's the reason why I think maybe we might bring another.
There is a 4th. I just can't remember who it is, but there is a 4th.
There is a 4th?
Scarlett.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. So Scarlett could hang around. Scarlett could be the guy that keeps the place if he's a club trained player. So it was yeah. Apart from that, I echo what Dave was saying. I think Mikey Moore will stick around. And so far, I think he scored in every game since under for his England internationals. He scored goals, came back. If he's not scoring goals, he's assisting. I think he's about 5 or 6 games or maybe more. He's scored consecutively, so he's on red hot form. And those are clubs, as you guys know, have been looking at him as Borussia Dortmund being one of them. Chelsea as well. There's a few other clubs I haven't mentioned. So I think Spurs want to, tie him down and guarantee him some minutes in the first team. So I expect Mikey Moore to have a little cameo appearance here and there. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much what Dave said. I can't think of anyone else that he missed. I think basically 3 or 4 of the players we're seeing. Obviously Gray and Bergvall, excluding them. But if we're just talking about academy players, then I expect those players to.
What about young Abbott, Ashmatic? Because there seems to be a lot made about him. He was the first one to make his debut under Mason.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And he's not really getting the same hype.
He's not getting the same hype. I wanted to look at him because there was a lot of hype around him. But I guess things can change. That's the whole point of a pre-season, right?
Yeah.
So
true.
Saturday, I think, will help us more. And then there's a game 3 days after. So we'll start to learn a little bit more after those 2 games, who's going to be more in the club's thoughts or more in Angie's thoughts, bringing that forward. But just to keep it simple, I'm going to echo, because it's hard to say really. Do you know what I mean at this point?
Right. So I'm just going to say hello because we've got loads of people in the chat today. I'm going to say hello to people that we haven't said hello to. So you've got Stu from the disabled team saying good evening, everyone. Peter Kagayas, hi all. It's 1:10 a.m. in Melbourne. It's now 1:36 a.m. in Melbourne. Nice to see you again, Peter. We got Jamie Imba, who made the comment about the game finishing and the result already. So hi, Jamie. I hope you're well. You've got Ilmatic here, saying big up the Spurs gang is all here. Just the harmless potatoes with us. Says big up Jose, Ash, and Dave. Who else we got? We have more people because I saw them as they were coming in. Chris Agenbar is here saying big up Jose, Ashmatic, and David. Wayne Bonner is here. Wayne says, afternoon, everyone. The youngsters excite me. I have a good feeling about them being involved with the first team. There's a special feeling about the whole thing. The future is looking bright. You have Donna saying wagwan to the 3 of us. She's put 3 different comments. She's wagwan each of us individually. I hope you're well, Donna. Who else we got? Steve D. Good afternoon, Steve D. Says afternoon, Jose, Dave, and Ash. Hope you're well, Steve. Then further down, there's a load of people speaking to each other. as well. Ben Kaufman. Ben Kaufman's here. Good afternoon. Ben says, I'm already done with this transfer window. I've had more exciting bowel movements. You got Drew Lalas here saying, afternoon, Jose, Ash, Dave, and the chat.
Yo.
Jacob, big up Yarl Star Panel. Good afternoon. Sorry, good morning to you, Jacob. I hope you're well, sir, you and the family. Then we have I caught up? No, there's still more. Dry roasted peanut says, Dave, are you happy we're getting a young talent from Korea? I know you wanted us to exploit that market more. Do you know? We'll answer it. We might as well answer it now because I've got other questions to get through. But go on, David.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not sure I've ever said specifically for Tottenham to go out and exploit the Asian market. I don't think that's ever come out my words. I think maybe this could be off the back of the video I dropped the other day. By the way, a day before Romano got hold of the story, I dropped it. So, I claim I got there before him. But what I would say is that the Asian market is a market that generates huge money for Tottenham Hotspur. Son, and the fans and the allegiance that he brings alone generate huge money for Tottenham, and Son alone is one of the reasons why Tottenham are breaking records year in, year out in terms of their commercial business and stuff like that, let alone the amount of business they got, the amount of sponsorships they got off the tour last time out there. They're out there again. It's bringing huge money. It's a relatively, I would argue, one of the last untapped markets in football. And, Spurs seem to be in there and want to get a stronghold in it. Look, this young kid is supposed to be supremely talented, but also it's hard not to have the skepticism that, the Copang Play series, which we're playing in, they're an e-commerce company. They bought the rights for the FA Cup and the Premier League starting from next season. So it's hard not to feel that Tottenham have brought this guy in as well to exploit the finances that come with it. And to have a succession plan to Son because of the records he brings. If you lose Son, them records start to dwindle. All of a sudden, there's a lot more questions to be asked around it. So I think that's what Tottenham's plan is. But I've never once said I want Tottenham to go in and exploit that market. I just think from the business sense, it makes sense for some club to go in there and be the first to sort of, go into that untapped market. But also from Tottenham's point of view, if I'm thinking with my Daniel Levy hat on, you have to have a succession plan for Son, and you've got questions to answer. So that's why Tottenham are in it. I'm not justifying it. I'm just making sense of it. Don't shoot the messenger.
Right. David has said, anytime Jose and Dave, I think this is when we commented about the gifting, said, when I catch you live, Cobber, your coverage of our youth and making us aware of the talent helps no end and is greatly appreciated. David, big up, Cobber. What I watched and liked. Nita is saying, hi, Jose, Ash, and David. Hope all is well. Let me see if there's anyone else that I've got to say hello to. Jesse from Jesse Talks Football says, afternoon all. Ronnie is saying afternoon all as well. Spurs GCTV, Graham is here. Graham's saying, afternoon, gents. I think the youth signings have been in the pipeline and the circumstances warranted acting now. Signing the established players is always going to take longer and maybe not down to us. Matthew is here saying, big up, chaps. David Shear has gifted a further 5 memberships. David, people need to thank David. It's Jesse Talks Football, Nita, Dry Roasted Peanut, Ronnie, and Mark Cousins have been gifted. And some people are already thanking him in the chat. Thank you very much, David, for your support. It doesn't go unnoticed. And DJ Samuel says, afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, DJ Samuel. And Stoke-on-Trent Spurs fans quiz. I think we're about to sign Rafinha from Barcelona as they're on the verge of signing Nico Williams. Watch this space. Interesting. So I'm going to go to the second question, which I had, which is, guys, and I'll start with you, Ash, first. Pre-season assessment of the 3 games so far.
It's just
Cambridge, Hearts, and QPR. We only got to see 2 of them. I didn't see the Cambridge. I haven't seen nothing from Cambridge, but we've had 3 games.
I just think it's a matter of fitness at the moment. The level of opposition is what it is. Like Hearts, obviously they've come from the SBL League. That first half was more Hearts compared to the second half when he put out their B team. Obviously we swapped a lot of players around as well. So it's just good to see a few players get out and get a run out, players that you'd never seen before. I wanted to look at Archie Gray. Obviously, he played as a centre back, which was interesting just to see him get on the ball and see what he can provide and offer. And then I wanted to see where they would play Kulusevski, and it seems like Kulusevski is being deployed more centrally than out wide. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen there, because I wouldn't be mad at a Swedish link-up with Bergvall and Kulusevski, seeing that they were coached at the same academy. Do you know what I'm saying? So possibly they could be in the same wavelength. And I don't mind players striking up strong relationships from the start. A lot of people have been hammering into Kulu, but both games I thought he linked up well with not just the midfielders, but with the front three. And I think when he's in the middle of the pitch, he's got more time to kind of pick his pass a bit better. He's not taking too long on the ball either. I think like he sees the picture quite quick again, and he's like doing little flicks and tricks, which I thought was quite cool. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I thought also not Donnelly, sorry. I forgot his name now. Mikey Moore. I wanted to see him, and I was like, you know what? The guy's got a bit of size about him. He's not like a scrawny. You know, when you think about some of the academy, you know what? All of the academy boys are quite stocky. Like him, Lancashire, he's got a bit of size about him. And Tyrese Hall hasn't, but on the ball, I thought Tyrese Hall, especially in that Hearts game, he was like driving on the ball, had a lot of energy, showed a lot of heart as well. But again, it was interesting to see QPR, because QPR was the next level up, and we didn't dominate QPR. I felt like they came at us a little bit more than Hearts did. I felt Hearts was a really open game for their like team. I felt their defense was open, as in it wasn't open for us, but more open for them. But against QPR, some of their wingers were getting on the ball. I forget their names, apologies. But the guy with the afro, he was looking like he was causing some problems, asking some questions, coming inside off the flank, popping shots off, forced our keeper a few saves. They were getting crosses in the box, making it difficult, a bit awkward. So it wasn't all one-way traffic. But that's what you want in a pre-season game. You kind of don't want it all your way, because you want to kind of mimic what's going to happen on the first day of the season. And so us playing a better level opposition, a team that's from England as well, that plays in that fast pace, I thought that was good for the boys, and good to see like the step up that academy boys had to make. Do you know what I mean? So even when Tyrese made that mistake at the back, I was like, good, let me see how he recovers from that. Is he going to bottle it? Is he going to step up? You know, those type of things there. That's what I wanted to see. So the more we see of those type of games, the more we'll learn to see if these boys are ready or not. I thought the Vine in that 6th row, I felt like he enjoyed it. Like, I think some of these boys, they just want to get out and play football. It's as simple as that. And when he got on the ball, I could just see that he was trying to thread the ball, get on the ball, make things happen. And yeah, I liked him. I liked what I saw from the Vine personally. I thought also, I've mentioned this before, Basuma had a mixed bag. I thought with the ball against QPR, a lot of people just say, no, he just scored a goal and it wasn't, what else did he do? I thought he did a lot. I thought when he was under pressure, we saw the Basuma that we saw in the first 10 games. However, I feel like the problem with Basuma is his recovery running. When we lose the ball, I don't feel like he recovers that ground quick enough to help out some of the fullbacks, some of the centre backs when we lose that possession. So I think, and sometimes he's quite lackadaisical. Is that the right word? Switch off at times where he's a bit laid back. He's a great defensive unit. Like, so if the ball's in front of him and he's got to chase the ball, or he needs to intercept to read the game in that sense, he's good. But when a transition happens, I think that's where we lose Basuma, and I think that's where fans are getting annoyed. Oh, he's lazy. He's not doing much. We need a 6 because, you know. And the funny thing is, he's actually agile. He's got the mobility. So it's not like he can't do it. But in terms of like sprint speed, being explosive on the way back, he's not really that guy. And you've seen some of his shortcomings. But saying that, that's why we've got the Archie Grays in to add competition. And I'm hoping that kicks him into gear, kicks him up the arse. And that's why you're seeing better performances from him on the ball, a lot more so. And I saw a lot of positive things from Basuma, and he seems very happy. I see him coming out of a hotel today in Japan, and fans were like screaming their names, and he was like, "Whoa!" Like, so I'm seeing him enjoy himself. I saw Brendan Johnson throw an ice bucket over him, and he took it well. So there's small positives. I like Sarr when he came back again. He's got a lot of legs, a lot of pitch coverage, doing what he does, getting the ball forward, being positive. And I've already mentioned about Bergvall. So the midfield looks bright for me. Maddison came on, didn't do too much, which is always a little bit of concern because you want Maddison to come and get on the ball and just, be that creative spark that we need, that we desperately need in that midfield. And he came on. I wouldn't say it was terrible, but again, you just want to see him take the game by the scruff of the neck, maybe pop some shots off from distance, and do. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, but that's what I saw from Maddison. I thought, Maddison, you've got another level in you. You can take it up now. We want to see that a bit more.
Yeah.
And then the front line, I think Son and Werner both missed chances for me against QPR. I'm like, expect Son to put those ones away. Werner's Werner. The ball's a bit behind him, but again, he kind of takes it too wide, and then it's underneath him, doesn't get the cleanest of contacts, and the keeper's able to smother it because it can read his position in his body position. And so things like that, you're just like, oh, cool. The front line's not really front lining. And then Johnson overhitting those crosses, he did well to feed some balls in, so I'm not going to go ham on Johnson, and he did take his man on. But again, it's just the consistency that lacks in that front three, whether it's the end product of the cross or the finishing. And that for me is, and for a lot of fans, a big worry going into the season. But again, the one behind doors we never saw, so I just see it as fitness. And I see most of these games as just fitness, getting their legs. The positive thing is a lot of the players weren't in like Euros or Copa America. So that's why I think we've come out and we looked quite sharp in some games. So that's what I'd say. Defensively, we're still getting got at. So I think there needs to be some improvements off the ball as well. But yeah, I won't take up more time because I'm just talking.
No, I completely agree with you when it comes to the back line and the forward line. People say you can't really take a lot away from pre-season. It's based on fitness, and that's generally why you play a lot of games over pre-season, is to build up the legs and stuff like that. But there is certain things you can take away. We're still far too open. If Hearts and QPR are getting us with that ease, let's not forget Gunter pulled off a great save. Brandon Austin pulled off a couple of decent saves. Better teams are going to get at us. But I still truly believe that stems from how crap we are in the forward line with the football. We're nowhere near clinical enough. We don't score goals enough. We do a lot of good group work up until the final third. But when it comes to that final pass, that cross, that shot, it all unravels. That ball gets turned one ball to straight on us. That needs to be sorted. Both ends of the pitch, and that's why we still need to hit this transfer market with players that can come in here and genuinely improve that first 11. Not a Werner or Johnson level signing where they could come in and do that. We need guarantees, of a certain quality that they're going to come in and improve that. You improve that forward line, you become a lot more clinical. You kill teams off, and they don't even have belief, hitting you on the counter, because by then you're already 2 or 3-0 up. When it comes to Bergvall, this kid is showing Maddison how to play in that calm role. Absolutely unbelievable. But every time I've seen Bergvall, he's on the ball. He wants it. He's like the chicken heartbeat. Everything comes through him. He dictates the tempo, but he slow it down, quick it up. But most time in the final third, he's looking to prod and probe, take players on, feed others in. I feel like Maddison isn't doing that. I agree with Ashmatic. I still think he's playing within himself, which I'm quite surprised considering the guy's got a massive point to prove, not only to Tottenham fans and people who question, is he good enough to make the step up, but also to England, to get back into that team. So I'm quite surprised with the ease that he's come back. Another thing that I completely agree with Ashmatic in terms of Basuma, I think he lets himself down on the track back when the ball gets turned over higher up the pitch. is he quick enough to get back? But I also question, is he breaking a gut to get back the way you would see a Rodri or someone like that? I don't think he is. I think, like Ash said, he's a bit lackadaisical. Where I would maybe throw the lazy comment at him to a degree is when it's simple things like not throwing your head over your shoulder to be aware of a runner coming on. You know, little things like that, where I think if he actually just done, he would improve so much more and there wouldn't be as many questions around him. It's actually just little things with Bissouma. You know, if you could get that into him, you know, I think we've got one hell of a CDM on our hands, but also hopefully, like I said, Archie Gray will hopefully help Bissouma and push him on to be maybe more consistent over the course of the campaign. And last thing I would say is, it looks like the youngsters have got a much better grasp of the system and what Ange Postecoglou wants to do. And I think many people agree with me here. They've been much more satisfying to watch with their attacking intent and, you know, how often they're getting in on goals when we've seen the youngsters play this sort of system compared to the first 11, which is concerning to a degree. Now, for me, I have a theory with youngsters. They're dying to impress. Ange Postecoglou is their first real experience of a proper senior manager, so they're impressionable. Everything he says, they're taking in. They're like sponges, and they'll carry it out to a T. Whereas I feel like senior players, someone like Madison and players like that, have had many different coaches, and they might go, well, hang on, this guy said this to me, and this makes more sense, so I'm still going to carry out this, and maybe not carry it out to the full letter of the law the way Ange wants. And maybe you heard some of them frustrations being aired towards the back end of last season when results weren't going right. So hopefully these youngsters, until we bring in more players to solve a few issues, will give some of them senior pros a kick up the ass. And, you know, I'm all here for it because they do need to up their game and take it to another level. You know, I know people say it's only Hearts and QPR, and some of these guys are only finding their legs. Seem to forget some of these guys have a point to prove. If we're talking about going on a title charge, you come out here, you hit the ground running, you start as you mean to go on. You know, like I said, Madison, Bissouma, players like that have a massive point to prove, so they should be on it more consistently so that they can hang on to their spot in the first team. So from the senior pros, I actually expect a bit more from them. And then the last thing I'll take away from it is Jedi Spence-tacular. He is back. The return of the Jed. You know, 2 games, absolutely phenomenal. And for me, adds a complete different dynamic to Pedro Porro that Spurs could actually use off the bench or in certain types of game, because Porro's more technical, great passer of the ball, long-range passing crosser. Spence can ping that ball up like a doji and take it from the back line to the front line, no problem whatsoever. And with Emerson going out the door, with a backup right back not being emergency on the list, plus he's homegrown in terms of English, help with that quarter. For me, I think it makes a lot of sense to give him the opportunity and actually use that money to go after an Ivan Toney or a Gyökeres, to go after an Eze and people like that, and actually improve the first 11 where it actually matters, rather than trying to make that spread to a backup right back. If Postecoglou can get Jed Spence back on track and back on focus, I'm all for it. And by the way, I know a lot of fans maybe have questions about Jed Spence's attitude. I don't blame him one bit whatsoever. If I'm a young 22-year-old, which I was at the time, breaking my bollocks to get my move to the Premier League, and it's taken away from me because the manager wants to prove a point with the ownership because he's at war with him, and no matter how hard I train, there's nothing I can do to get in the team, I'm losing my head to a degree as well. I'm switching off to a degree as well. If Ange Postecoglou has him back refocused and ready to go, we should be keeping him around.
Fantastic. Right. Thank you very much. That was very, very in-depth answers, and that's only 2 questions so far. These boys are giving it all to you today, people in the chat. Since I last said hello to people, Maha Hotspur Leo has joined us. Says, big up, fellas. Much love to you all. And we have some more. Soy Undorito says, I won't overhype this youngster Gray Bergwall until I see them play in the Premier League. We can't overhype them like Arsenal Chelsea scum fans. Anamain is saying, great show with big dogs, been working on some things and listening. Anamain is Colin from Talk and Ball. This is his other channel that he's starting up. So people, if you see Anamain in the chat, it's
I have to
actually
tune
Colin.
in, you know. Anime, you know. Oi, go on then.
He does anime stuff.
All right.
Japanese anime. So he's got an anime channel. So if people, he wants subs, he's looking for subs as well. So if people want to sub to him, they can.
Plug away. All right.
Who else have we got here? We have Daikaru's here. It's late. I know it's for Dekaru. It must be the early hours of the morning. He says, "Hey all, it's very late here, and I'm trying to filter this European volume." And then we have Orezaham says, "When is Tottenham going to Korea?" They've already gone. They are actually in Korea now, and they will be playing in a couple of days' time against the K1
No,
League.
no, they're in Japan now, Jose. They're not flying
Sorry,
to
they're in
Korea till
Japan.
after the visit October.
Sorry. They have a match in Japan on the 31st, which is next Wednesday. So any time after Saturday, I would have said probably Sundays when they'll fly. I don't think the flight's that long from Korea to Japan, but I probably think it's Sunday they may fly. Yeah, you're quite right. I've lost my train of thought there. Right. So that's caught up with everyone that was saying hello to in the chat. Question number 3 of 5 is, and I'll start with you, Dave, as I started with Ash earlier. What do you make of the window so far? I know you guys, you've treaded on some of this already, but it was a banner that I'd already had set up.
I find it completely underwhelming so far to date, to be brutally honest with you. We all knew the issues that needed to be fixed, especially in the forward line. So far this summer, bringing back Timo Werner for me never made an ounce of sense. He didn't improve that front line last season, so I don't understand why we brought him back in here on loan. Okay, the Archie Gray signing, very good signing, but we were expecting the club to go and take advantage of the PSR, go after the likes of Gibb Whites, players like that. Never done it. We slept idle. The only one we really took advantage for is Archie Gray. Did Tottenham do enough or push the ball out? No, nowhere near it. So for me, not good enough. And now we're sitting here just under 4 weeks out from our first game against Leicester City. Still no improvements in the forward line. So there's no one that can sit here and say, yeah, we're going to improve on last season, because the difference in the improvement is that forward line. Getting in a striker, getting in another winger of real, genuine quality, like a Tony, like an Eze, people like that. Even, some people say that, I don't want him. I think he's too injury prone. But we haven't done anywhere near enough this window. Now, look, to caveat it, if I want to try and make logic out of it, are the club, holding out for their number one targets? You look at Eze, you look at Tony, they're on holiday right now, so nothing's being done with them, and they would have instructed their agents while they're at the Euros. Don't want to hear anything about transfers and going to the Euros and going on holiday, then we'll talk. Also, we can't move right now because until their holidays are done, they're not going to come here to do any of the media work and stuff like that. So, to be able to promote the signing and stuff. So you could look at it and argue, are the clubs sitting back? Do they deserve credit for sitting there and waiting and actually pursuing number one targets? But of course, that's if they come in. But we all know with Tottenham Hotspur, it could very easily mean that the plans have gone awry. Ange Postecoglou had a meeting with the transfer committee before last season even ended. He told them what players that they can get rid of and what player positions he needs signings in. After that, it's up to the transfer committee. Now, they've obviously adopted a policy where they want to get players out first. They want to clear the decks. And at some point, Ash, I've been speaking about this with you many times, and Jose, that it was going to come a point where you have to sell these guys off the show You can't, you have to show a bit of patience in the window and let the club clear them off the decks, because they're holding us back in terms of really progressing the squad, but also being able to get our under-21s out on loan to really good clubs and stuff like that. So, you could argue that the club are sitting there waiting. And, to back that up, Johan Lang, there's one thing, I done a video ages ago with Jack about Johan Lang when we first signed him. One thing I looked at was his homegrown side of the squad at Aston Villa that he helped develop. Absolutely brilliant. And that's why Villa were able to come on strong, because they sprinkled it with the right foreign signings for that side of the squad, and they had a complete squad to be able to go and compete. And that's why you're seeing the rise of Aston Villa. I think Johan Lang was brought in specifically to operate in the English market because he'd done well in it for Aston Villa. And that's probably why we're waiting out, because we don't want to pay these massive fees and be overcharged. We'll probably piss her out with Ivan Toney up until deadline day and try and force Brentford's bluff and try and get, a few million off the deal. Eze should be pretty straightforward. As soon as he's back, I believe he's got a release clause of 60 million. Should just put that straight in, go and bring him in here, especially knowing that Man City are sort of interested. But again, they're waiting to see what happens with Kevin De Bruyne and stuff like that. So while they're figuring that out, we should be trying to take advantage of that. So far, I don't think we've addressed any of the issues. So I can't sit here and say it's a great window. It's very, very, very underwhelming.
Yeah, I have to agree, because there was a lot of hype obviously when everyone was asking for a sporting director, you know, we've got Ange, but we need a sporting director. How can we bring in a manager or coach before we've got a sporting director? It makes no sense. So when Lange came through in October/November, there was some type of optimism that to say, okay, right now we've got the structure is in place. And I also remember when he came and we had Menelik, the Aussie guy that does the defensive work. He used to sit in the stands and have a bird's eye view of the game. And then him and Lange would sit down and they would they would report back to Ange and give them game analysis, what's going on from their view. And then from that point, that's where the strategy was being built up to what type of players, what type of profiles, what type of characteristics are actually missing. What do we need to suit the actual system we're deploying for Ange Postecoglou? So for me, that was a big expectation. Started all the way from November, and then we move into January, where there were talks of, I can't say all the acronyms, but FFP, PSR, how loads of clubs are stuck, they couldn't move. Yeah. And January, we could take advantage of that. Now, fast forwarding, we did manage to get Dragusin, but maybe we thought we were going to get one or two more players in that position. Never happened. So then, okay, you give it patience. Cool. Let's wait till summer. Even though we were screaming for a centre-back for ages, long before those injuries happened, we needed another centre-back. I felt like the club were reactive in that period when we did buy Dragusin. We didn't plan forward. Then we were told before the actual window happened that plans had already been made. We knew who we want. We had the targets, and then also we knew who we were going to move on. So there was that expectation that things were going to happen because there was a deadline for PSR and FFP as well. So we were thinking we might take advantage of that, seeing that some of our competitors in Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, maybe not a competitor, but again, a Premier League team, they were in trouble. And we thought maybe there was a few gems there we could take to improve our team. But then you gave the benefit of the doubt because there was obviously a Euros and a Copa de America going on at the same time. So some of the fan base were like, you know, we need to be patient. But my thing was, and where the disappointment lay with me was to understand and get grips of the Ange ball, which is super physical, which we did suffer a lot of injuries through because a lot of the players didn't have that full preseason, e.g. or i.e. Van der Ven, hamstrings going, who was deployed, who we bought maybe like to the back end of the season, the transfer window. And we understand why, because that they were negotiating fees and they upped their prices, blah, blah, blah. And then Van der Ven started the first game of the season, but then at the Chelsea games where he picked up the injury, and that's when we kind of fell off. I was really hoping we could get players on the plane and players through the door into the tour, getting used to the preseason, getting, you know, minutes in their legs, raring to go. And so we wouldn't have that reoccurring problem, because there'd be nothing worse than buying players now. And then again, November strikes and we have the same issues, hamstrings, ankles, knees, some type of injury, you know, some type of muscle fatigue. You've seen that with your doggy even. So like, yeah, for me, I was quite disappointed that we didn't get anyone through the door that we had planned for so long. Even during the season, we were told like February, March, April that things were getting done. And then in May, we were told that, you know, these targets were slapped. We know we're going to get X, Y, and Z done. And it hasn't happened. And then the next excuse was we have to get players out before we get players in. So then that's why I've been asking questions about, you know, I thought we had a leg room where we've got 400 mil, where we don't break any, we don't hurt ourselves. We've got leg room, wiggle room to spend that much of money. And then also, I know Kane was separate money, but again, it's just like, you know, we've sold him, but then we're looking for a replacement for him, which never came through. That whole window went through, then we're thinking, oh, are we gonna maybe strike early and get a striker in first, and that would settle the fan base down. Massive problems, because Ange came out and said we need to address that front line, that attacking front line. We need to address that. So the fact that any of that hasn't happened at the moment, and we've only got players that some are for now, or you could say some could argue that Archie Gray is for now. Some might say no, Archie Gray is maybe for halfway in the season, but we can't afford for that. We need players that are going to start and improve the starting 11 now. And if the weakness is for Spurs, the front line, then that needs to be addressed straight away. And it's not just Spurs fans saying it. Neutral fans, rival fans are saying that the weakness in Spurs is their front line. And I think out of the top 6, I think we have the worst front line, in my opinion.
I do find it a bit ironic that we're complaining about a front line, yet the majority, 90% of the Spurs fan base chased Harry Kane out of here, willing to accept the 100 million for him. So I find it ironic that Spurs fans are showing no patience to the club to replace him. I mean, what did they expect? I tried to warn everybody, when you're taking 100 million for Harry Kane, based off the club's performance in the transfer windows for strikers for the last decade, do you back them to replace him adequately? I warned everybody they weren't going to, and we're still here haven't. Right now, I've just had a look at the... Go on.
No, go on. No, sorry, Karen.
No, go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, but is it a case that it was on Harry as well, that maybe...
Okay, that's fine on Harry Kane. But at the end of the day, many Spurs fans could have said, no, we don't want him to go. Regardless of Harry Kane's decision, we don't want him to go because we don't back the club to be able to replace him. No one said that. They all used, oh, well, if Harry wants to go, we should cash in and stuff like that, when it wasn't best for the club. So I find it ironic that, most people are sitting here moaning about the forward line when not many people stuck their neck on the line for a reason to keep Harry Kane around, especially for footballing reasons. I
don't think people foresaw Werner coming in.
But hang on. People sit there and moan about the way the club do business. What did they expect was going to happen? You can't sit there and say we don't trust the club to do something and then go, we'll sell Harry Kane, and then expect the club to do it, and then turn around and go, well, I don't think we expect the Werner to happen. Of course, everyone expected. No one expected it. If we're being real, people should have said we don't expect the club to replace Harry Kane adequately. We didn't. Now that it hasn't happened, people are sitting there moaning about it. But, at the end of the day, that's why fans sometimes have to sit there and go against the grain and say we should be looking to keep this player at all costs. No one wanted to do that. We didn't show any grit behind it. We bailed at the first sight of opportunity. And now we're sitting here going, who's going to score us goals? Now we're sitting here in a market. And no one, and in a market, by the way, where there's not many great number 9s out there, solo strikers, and no one wants to give the club a patience to try and fix it. You can't have your cake and eat it. For me, it looks like they're holding out for someone like Ivan Toney. He's a homegrown market. When you look at the squad right now, we're up to full quota with foreign players. We've no room to scope unless we sell the likes of Emerson and people like that now to go after the foreign market. The only scope we have left in the squad, because whether people like it or not, we have to meet the squad registration for the Premier League and for Europe. The only scope we have is on the English side, the homegrown quota. That's why we're sitting here waiting for the likes of Eze and Tony and people like that, because it's the only side of the scope of the squad that we have that we can improve right now.
I hear it. I think at the time there was an argument that everything's going through Kane, and maybe if Kane was to go, then other people have to step up and the goals will be shared across the team. But not knowing that the players that we were going to have, for example, like Maddison down tools in after his injury was going to happen. Son, obviously, I would say looking tired at points, because I think maybe in obviously he's not that type of player to hold the ball, have hold up play. He's not strong on the ball to be in that focal point as a number 9 and have that link play. He's more of a wide forward, someone that runs in behind and stretches the play that way. But again, to ask him to do that over a course of a season, knowing that he's in the twilight of his career, it is asking a lot. So I think people honestly thought maybe we would look to buy a striker, not knowing that Richarlison was technically the Kane replacement, which is horrible to think of. But again, Richarlison hasn't been available for large parts of the season. I think that hampered things as well, for his availability. Like when he was playing, he did get a bag of goals. He did have like a patch of form where he was scoring consistently for us. But then again, like I said before, if you haven't got a number 9 available, then that's going to hamper our results, and it's going to affect the way we play and the way we go up in the table. But yeah, no, you're right, man. you told us. Not everyone listens, and now we must fill. But the only thing we can do right now is hopefully we are going to buy a forward moving forward, and hopefully we can get some wingers to go along with it well. Because I think the wingers we've got players or the forwards that we have are wide forwards or players that like to run in behind. But we need a different profile just to vary our attacks at times, because not every team's going to come at us. Some teams are going to sit in a low block. What then? What do you do then with your wide forwards if they like to run in behind? If there's nowhere to run into, so
save the names, because that's the next question. Yeah.
yeah, cool. I'm done. I was.
Can I just say that David Shear, again, as he's gifted another 5 memberships. So that's now 20 he's done on this show. And they've gone to Orzaham, Paul G, Mr. M, Gary Ross, and Dragons D Nuts. And since we've been talking, we have had some more people join us. And they are Brian Maguire, who says that Levy won't pay the 50 million up front before the 8 million add-ons. You got Paul G's here, and I forget who his comment was, but Paul G, there we go. If Carlsberg made Spurs panels, is what Paul G says. Thank you for your nice comment, Paul G. And who else we got that's joined, that's made a comment for the first time? Jazz Fusion. Good afternoon. Jazz Fusion says replacements cost money, therefore never was going to happen. Seemed obvious, so no need to discuss, lad. Your Spurs didn't care that he left one bit, still don't. Ooh. And Paul G's, you're saying, Dave, you're the oracle.
No, look, I get Jazzy Fusion's point, but look, I stand by what I said, and ultimately, time proved me right. So that's the end of the argument, I think.
Right, and with that, I'll move on to the 4th banner out of 5, and with this one, who do I start with? Dave, Ash, Dave. It says Ash. It says back to Ash. Is who do you right? They keep saying, and you keep seeing comments on Shitter all the time saying, yeah, Tottenham are really close with 3 players. They'll be done and dusted. They're going to dot the I's, cross the T's, blah blah blah. And there's 3 players that are ready to come in. So I know that we've been linked since April to 400 players or thereabouts. But for you, Ash, it's your opinion on who the 3 may be, or it could be the 3 that you want. What
3 I want compared to the 3. The 3 that I think it's going to be, I have no idea. I'll be real. Yeah, I have no idea, because right now it is speculation upon speculation. I've heard things from the left, I've heard things from the right, I've heard things from the middle. It depends what journalist or ITK you believe. Some people, if you go on, like you said, Shitter right now,
yeah,
it's going to be done within the next 33 minutes. It's going to be an announcement. So this is what I'm trying to say to you. There's so much up and down. Crystal Palace, according to Romano, are in talks with, I think it is Olympic Marseille for Ismail Sarr.
Correct.
That looks like a deal that's going through. I was watching a Crystal Palace stream, and they were talking like who they wanted and Sarr. Some of the fans said they did want him, some of the fans said they didn't. So I thought that was interesting. I've obviously got the Japanese guy, Kamara, that had worked with their manager at Frankfurt. Yeah, he worked with him before. I remember him playing against us in Champions League. I thought he's a good player. He's a good talent. I like him. So also they were linked with Marcus Edwards as well. I don't know how true that is, if that's a speculation, but again, they're looking at players in different positions. I didn't hear a lot of them saying that Eze's going to leave, but funny enough, I've got quite a few Palace mates, so I'm going to have a quick chat with them as I'm going to play football with them in a few moments. But I'm going to get their thoughts. But yeah, so Eze, I don't know. Eze has been linked to a few clubs, Arsenal being one of them, Liverpool being another club as well. So am I going to 100% say Eze is coming to Spurs? No, it's speculation. I don't know. Would I like Eze to be Spurs? Yes, I think he solves a lot of problems. I think he can play. I think he can play on the 8 role. or just behind the striker. I think he can operate there. As a left-sided 8, I think he can be that creative player. I think what goes unnoticed about Eze is that he's actually quite hard-working, playing for Palace. He does get in the tackle. I've looked at some of his numbers in terms of tackles, interceptions, and it's one of the highest in the league. So that people might say it's down to the team he plays for, but Glasner plays a bit more attacking than Hodgson did. And I think as an 8, he's got good ball retention. So I felt like at times in the season, Spurs would lose a lot of the ball in the midfield at times. Maddison would struggle to, pick it off the fullback and then, progress that ball at times. It would get cut out. We wouldn't find the out ball. I think Eze is a better dribbler than Maddison, in my opinion. And I think he gives a different angle to our attacks. And equally, I think he can play out wide. Loads of people say that's not his best position, but I think he can. He's a player that plays from out to in. He's more of a dribbler, in my opinion, than a person that runs in behind. I think, again, inside the box, he's deadly. I think he has got coach vibes as well from what I saw at Palace. So some people haven't seen that. And then also the types of goals he could score outside the box, inside the box. And again, he can take 2 or 3 players out of the game, which gives space to other attackers. So if, for example, we decided to play 2 attacking 8s in Eze and Kulu or Eze and Maddison, then it might free Maddison up. Do you know what I mean? If Eze was to pick the ball up from deep, Maddison might be able to operate a little bit higher, and that solves another issue. As I said before, as a wide player, he comes in and he comes off the flank and he could rotate with a Doggy and whoever the other 8 is in that left 8. So again, you've got varied attacks, varied positions he could play. He's even played out on the right for Palace at the start of his career and for QPR as well. But again, he's not a player that needs to be coached, in my opinion. So he's someone that can figure it out himself, which Ange likes. He likes players he doesn't want to hold people's hands and teach them and tell them what to do. And so I think he fits into our system like a glove. Now, on the right-hand side, as a winger, because some people saying we need a 6, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hold out for a number 6. But as a right winger, I think we do need a right winger. Chiesa's been linked quite a bit. A lot of people don't like that because he's injury prone. But I think he's a massive goal threat. I think he's someone that hardworking, busy-bodied. He's got a lot of energy. That's the way he plays. He's very aggressive. And I think he's a player that can add goals. I think if you're going to have a front 3, you don't want to rely on your striker to get you 20, 30 goals. You need goals from your forward players. And the way I believe Ange uses his forward players is that they link play a lot. And if we've got a number 9 that links play, that means the wide players have to get goals. They have to be clinical. And I think if we were to get someone like Chiesa, and I liked his dad. Back in the day, I used to watch a lot of Italian football. I used to watch Parma. And Chiesa Senior, him and Zola used to link up. Those were my 2 favorite players from Parma. So when I was looking at Chiesa when he was playing at Fiorentina, I was very skeptical of him. Very, very skeptical, because that's how much I held Chiesa, in my opinion, what type of player he was. So when I saw his son do it, I was like, actually, you know what? This kid's got something about him. And then he proved his worth, went on to Juventus and did bits. And then obviously we saw it in 2020 when he played against us. We saw what type of problems he was giving us. Then you can see why he could be such a great player, in my opinion. But again, it's those injuries. He's got different type of injuries. That's one thing I'd say is slightly positive. It's not like a recurring injury when I looked into it. But yeah, if Chiesa wasn't to come, and I thought the price mark was quite good, because I think that allows us to spend money in other areas. If we was to go and be serious, I think Neto, for me, in terms of dribbling, is insatiable. I think he's superb, crazy dribbler. Obviously, I thought Ange was at the ITV studios when Portugal were playing, and he saw Neto, and I think he was blown away. I think that's the reason why the reports came out. Ange likes Neto, because he came on that pitch. Him and that kid from Porto, they both came on and they just caused havoc and they changed the game. And then Portugal ended up winning the game in the last 10 to 15 minutes or 5 minutes. Sorry. So I think Neto is something that we just don't have. I remember when we played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, he came and he just gave us headache after headache after headache. And I watched him against Liverpool. Liverpool almost lost that game. They won 3-2, I think. He flipped them a new one. Arsenal, problems. Chelsea gave them problems. Newcastle, problems. Against the big teams, he turns up. Against the small teams, he turns up. So he's a player. Even though he's injury prone, the games he did play, as soon as he got back from his injury, he made an impact more than the Brennan Johnson and Werner that we have at the moment. And Solomon's been out. Even when Solomon came back from his injury, he still didn't have the same impact as a Neto, in my opinion. So either player, I see both value in those areas. And I feel like there are reports from Romano on Neto. So that's why I'm like thinking that's maybe more realistic. I think there's a price valuation gap between the two. But yeah, I think Neto could be feasible, and I wouldn't be mad if he came at the club. Up front, now this is the big one. Now, this is where I'm going to finish off. Lots of people do like Tony, and I wouldn't be mad if we got Tony because profile-wise, we spoke about his mentality. He's forgotten once the mentality, hasn't he? You've seen the balls on him, like when it comes to penalties, you know, just the attitude as well, his aggression in the air. We've got nothing like him. I think that's his biggest attribute, his physicality in the air, off the ball as well. He will win you headers, push up the pitch. That's not how we play with the current wingers that we have. Ange Ball likes to play the balls like across the 6-yard box. But I think Tony's got a good enough football IQ, in my opinion, to know when to arrive in those spaces and to be on the end of those things. Whether he's clinical enough, that's where my question mark is. Has he lost a yard of pace since he's come back? The last 3 to 4 games, I was like, oh, I don't know if he's as fast as he was last season. I'm not too sure. That's where my question marks is. But can he hold the play up as a number 9? 100%. Can he bring players in? 100%. Long ball, he's definitely got that. And I think that's what reminds a lot of fans of Kane, because the way he sprays passes from long distance, from winning the ball back, you know, sometimes if we're not going short and you need to just get into your front man, it's a different attacking option and can create a fast transition out of it if teams are onto us, and it's just a different element. So there's a lot of positives with Tony, but again, he suits a team that players, you need wingers that can cross balls into the box. Do we play that style of play? I'm not too sure. So do we lose a bit of Tony there? Maybe. I don't know. But he's still an upgrade on what we have at the moment in terms of guile, tenacity, and also football IQ as well, being in the box, being in the right spaces and getting on the end of things. He's definitely a poacher in my eyes, and he can link the play as well. And I think that's what Spurs need, a player that can link the play and a player that can be a poacher in the box, a mixture of the two. But those are my concerns about Tony, other than people saying about mentality, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy into that too much because I have seen him in a lot of interviews and podcasts, whatnot. I'm not too worried about that. Then another striker I feel like would suit Ange's system, who we're not linked with heavily, but is a Pender. I saw what he did against Man City in the Champions League. I think his finishing is good. I think he's fast, he's rapid, he can play left, right. I did see a glimpse of him in the Euros, and I think he again raised the level. He was the one that can be on the end of things. He can cause havoc inside that penalty area, and I think he'll be a great fit for Spurs. The only problem is his price tag will probably be out of our price range. But if we're serious, we could pay. If we're serious, we could go for him. But again, really want to come to Spurs, being at Leipzig, who's in the Champions League. Is it a sideways move for him? Or is the lure of the Premier League enough for him to come, and our stadium and our fans, etc.? Is that going to be a pull where he thinks he can elevate his career at a top club? Then my other player, well, we've been linked to I think, is Jonathan David. I'm not 100% on him because when I did see him for his national team, it's like physicality was an issue for me. Other than that, his hold-up play is quite good. Hold-up play, his link play, shall I say. His link play is good. And his movement off the front man, sometimes he plays as a second striker, is quite good as well. Finishing decent as well. He's a decent finisher. But again, it looks like the cheaper option if we go for him, which is, it's always like Spurs are always going for cheap options or players that are slightly injured or something that's wrong. Why can't we just go for something that good? Do you know what I mean? Why can't we just go to the showroom and buy the car that hasn't got that much mileage on it, that it's not like a second-hand car? Like, do you know what I mean? But my number one pick, and this is not controversial, but not everyone likes him. But for me, I like him. I have arguments in WhatsApp groups all the time about this guy. And I like Guy Carres. I don't think he'll come to Spurs. I think he'll go to Arsenal. But I like him. I think he's Swedish again, Scandinavian, can link up. If Kulu was to say, I don't know, you might sell him, we might go to Napoli, I don't know. But again, he can link up with Bergvall, trained in the same academy again. He reminds me of Kulu, but the difference is he makes his mind up a lot quicker. So he sees the picture upstairs faster, football IQ's there, spatial awareness, knows when to run into the space, strong on the ball, can play in the channels, can beat his man, can create, which is one of the most important things, something out of nothing by himself. Take-ons, he can do that. Carrying the ball, he can do that. Hold up, he can do that. Link up, he can do that. Finishing, on his weaker foot, not bad either. And so that's the type of player I like, someone that can get in the box, like an old school striker, like a Defoe. You know, Defoe used to take his man on and then boom, low center of gravity, could shoot. Guy's 6'3", 6'2" as well. So he's got good profile and a good size about him as well. So those are the reason why. And in the air as well, he can finish with his head. That gets unnoticed as well. But I think it's down to the way the Sporting Lisbon play. That's the reason why you don't see too many heads of him. Last one, just before I finish, is going to be Jimenez. A lot of people liked him. I think he's similar to Kane. But again, international form puts me off. He's not always fancied for Mexico. And again, it's the league he operates in. Does gives you question marks. Whereas some of the other players, they've played in different leagues and done it. He's and I shouldn't really judge him off the back of that. I should just look at his profile. Does he fit? Yes, he does. Take-ons, can he hold a play up? Is he good in the air? He can do all of that type of stuff. He's not the fastest, but he's no slow coach. I think he's a little bit quicker than Kane. So again, if you're looking for a Kane replacement, I think he kind of suits that mold. Whether you think he's right for Ange Ball, I think Guy Carres is a better player, and I think he's more suited for Ange Ball. And I hope that answers your question for the front three. But Guy Carres, sorry, Eze 100%. And if I had to go between Neto and Chiesa, I'm going to say Neto. I just prefer Neto. I just like the way he plays. There, done it.
So Neto, Guy and
Eze.
And Eze. Okay. Thank you very much, Ash, for the analysis on all them players. I thought we was going to go for all 400 that we've been linked with since April. Dave, who do you think the three are, or who would you like the three to be?
I think one of the three could be Rafinha from Barcelona. I'd keep an eye on that.
What? It's a daisy. Sorry.
If they get Nico Williams, which it looks like, you know, they're trying to wrap up, that puts Rafinha on the market. Tottenham have a long outstanding interest with him from Leeds. Yeah, but look, you know, I did see Paul O'Keefe sneakily, you know, underneath in a comment section saying, you know, underneath a post with Nico Williams to Barcelona, and he did say Tottenham are just waiting for Barcelona to put him on the market. You know, basically, you know, get Nico Williams in so Tottenham can move for him. So that's one I would probably keep an eye on there. Up front, for me, it's between Gyökeres or Ivan Toney. It's got to be one of the two, but I'm thinking the club will probably go all out for Ivan Toney because he is English and helps with that side of the squad registration. And it's not just because he's English. You know, obviously he helps with squad registration, but everything Ashmatic said about the guy, I fully agree with him. I really like Ivan Toney as a player all around. I think he offers us very similar to something that Harry Kane did. And one thing I think people forget is I think it would also unleash Son a little bit as well. You know, people got caught up with that he has to play down the middle, but he doesn't. If you've got a striker that takes the attention away from him, it allows him to make them runs in behind like he did off Harry Kane for so many years to go on, you know, because Kane was drawing 2-3 bodies towards him at times. And I think it would actually really help Son push on even another level. So for me, I think that's very important to get done. And I believe Brentford already signed their striker, didn't they? They signed some guy, Igor, off Club Brugge earlier on in the window. So they're sitting there just waiting to sell him. And I would presume Tottenham have gone into Brentford with our history. Watkins, there was another guy there not so long ago we were trying for with them as well. They just completely charge us over the top. David Ray, they completely charge us over the top for their signing. So I've no doubt Levy's sitting there trying to play the waiting game, trying to call Brentford's bluff, which could end up causing us the deal, which means we might end up having to scramble around the market, for whatever else is out there. So it's a risky game to play, in my opinion. But I think there too, you could see sign this summer. Third one, I would absolutely love Eze. For me, that would make me fall back in love with this club completely again, signing a player like him, adding that with an Ivan Toney. I could look at it and say, okay, we look like we're trying to take that next step from fifth inside that top four and trying to challenge for trophies, bringing in these guys. Looks like we're trying to make a bit of a statement. However, I would suggest Palace are probably going to try and do everything they can to get him to sign a new contract, to take that release clause and look to sell him on for a bigger fee next year after selling Elise already this summer. So, our Palace going to let him go. I wouldn't be quite so sure on that one. I'm a bit dubious on that. However, I would absolutely love it to happen. So I think they could be the three that we might see. Outside of that, Gyökeres is one that I'd really love in here. I don't know if anyone watched Bandrick for Germany. I think he'd be an ideal sort of CDM to sit in there. I thought it was absolutely brilliant if you could go after him for Bayer Leverkusen. So they would be my players that I wouldn't mind seeing signing on the dotted line this summer.
Fantastic. I've got a couple of things, right? So David has gifted another 5 memberships and then says to me that it's the last one he promises. And they've gone to Spurs Diehards TTID, Jazz Fusion, Danny Talk Sport, Lukman Young Singh Eugene, and the Mile High Hotspur. Right, I was just about to say, you guys spoke really highly of a lot of players there. And the one thing that resonates with me, whether you love him or loathe him, there was a manager that we had about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was on a documentary, and he said you need to be, and he used the word, we don't have enough of these type of players. Now, some of the players that you've mentioned to me have chest and have teeth. I'm not going to use the words he did, but have chest and teeth. And that's what we're lacking at Tottenham. I think we'll all agree we're lacking chest and teeth. So when you're talking about, or you talked about Chiesa and you talked about Ivan Toney, they're the kind of players that have chest and teeth. And they are the type of players, molds of players that we need. We need more chest and teeth in the team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So just to show, because you guys have been talking, in the background, you've got the 3 that it was KWP, Ramsey, and David.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But then then Scott says the 3 that I want though are Eze, Toney, and Zubamendi.
Not bad.
Spurs Diehouse says the 3 players are Eze, David, and Chiesa. Dry Roasted Peanut says Eze, Toney, and Dorgu probably. Jazz Fusion says any 3 Belgians will do. Daniel Coy says, I'll be real, the next signing will probably be an 18-year-old from Ecuador. David Clark says, I'll put David because David's not been on the show. He came in, he says, I've been on other Spurs podcasts yesterday and the negativity is like a disease. Lord Rodney Trotter, good afternoon to you. He says, Ericsson would be a god-awful signing, Nostalgia FC. Chris Lonnie, who's very early in the morning because he's in Australia, says, good morning, everyone. I haven't seen any quality buys by any Premier League side. Luckily, we have brought in any other Premier League sides rejects. Lord Rodney Trott says London is blank. Coys. Mark Cook says Chiesa, Johan Bakayoko, and Toney. I would like probably be another 3 18-year-olds. Though is what Mark's saying. 3 for all. Good afternoon. Says the bookies have closed the book for Tony's next club. Inner Hype says Portuguese players are rocking 1-on-1. Brian Maguire says that we should go for Jota, the ex-Celtic winger. Jamie from Talking Tottenham TV says Eze, Gibbs, White, and a championship midfielder. I can't see an out-and-out striker. Jay Ashraf says it's probably Gallagher, Eze, or Neto, and then Davids or the Mexican striker. And that's where we are with the people that have been answering, I think, in the comments. And the last question, because I know, Ash, you got to shoot, man. The last question I had is, right, and I'll start with you, Ash, because you got to jump. So, thoughts on the Vissel game, and what would you like to see?
Yes, 11 o'clock kickoff, right? Our time, or my time.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock for this one, and then the next two games in Japan. No, the next two games are 12 o'clock kickoffs, midday.
Cool. So Saturday is right. Saturday was our next kickoff. A lot of the youngsters have gone on a plane, as we said earlier in the show. So I'm expecting to see more of the same. I'm like to see some of the youngsters get a run out. I want to see. I'm expecting to see actually a bit more from Lancashire in terms of minutes, seeing that he only got 22 and 21 minutes. So if they are impressed with him and he's saying things like, "What can I do to get better?" then maybe he gets more of a look. Whether he starts, that's going to be very interesting, in my opinion, to see like what their plans are moving forward. Whether they're going to start Son up front again, which I don't think was really working. I wonder if they're going to have Werner out there again and Johnson like the same front three to go against them. Probably so. I reckon that the team might not change so much, and then they might do the same thing they did with the QPR game, and then give the youngsters a run out in the second half. What would I like to see? I would like to see Bergvall start again, but I don't know how serious that hamstring concern was. So I don't know if they're going to keep him off the bench and maybe let him come on the second half, let him rest for a bit.
There's videos, Ash, of him being in full training out there.
Yeah, but still, I don't know how their approach is, if they're more cautious with him because of that flare up, if they want to risk it. I know he's a young man and he's strong enough. But yeah, if I have my way, I would like to see him in that midfield alongside Basuma and maybe Sarr again, because I did like that balance. And as Dave said, he was showing Madison how to do the Madison role, which is kind of funny. So like the first game what he played, I felt like he had to find his rhythm like in the first 5 or 10 minutes. But when he found it, that's when you saw the quality, and that's when he started putting his hand out saying, "Yo, give me the ball." Do you know what I mean? I like the needle. I like the mentality of him. But already I saw clips of it because they were talking about his mentality before. But to see it on the pitch was beautiful, in my opinion. So I would like to see a similar midfield. In the front line, I want to see more of Mikey Moore. I do. The hype is becoming more and more each and every day. Every time he scores, and now he just scored in that indoor friendly. He's scoring a bucket load of goals as well. It's not even like he's scoring one or like every time he's just getting in the right position, which for me is showing football IQ. I thought Lancashire showed good football IQ at times in that front line. When he was against Hearts, when he took his goal so well, and there was a run he did to take a defender away, and which allowed Mikey Moore to get on the ball to score the goal. I said, oh, he understands. Yeah. And so that was what makes me more excited about the youth. When they do things like that, people miss that. And I'm like, listen, that's football. Understanding the space, when to run, not being running around like a headless chicken. I think that's very important. And if the youth have got that, they understand the system. But on top of that, they've got the tenacity, they've got the hunger, they've got the bit between their teeth, they've got a point to prove, then that's gonna go well for our team. And also they've got the legs to get up and down. The fitness levels are going to be better because they're younger. So the recovery is going to be better. So it's going to look like if we lose the ball, we're able to recover it back quicker. So I want to see some of these younger players get a longer run out. I think that's what I'm saying. I would like to see that. Younger players have more of a run out, see more of them. And then if they do well, that gives them more confidence, and then Ange more confidence to play them and maybe give them a pathway to maybe stick around and say, yeah, you know what? Younger players are going to be a depth. And you know what Ange likes to do? Around the 65th minute or the 60th to 70th minute, he likes to bring fresh legs on, because the way he likes to play is we don't stop. And so if they get the opportunities in a Leicester game under the lights and it's like, I don't know, 1-1 or it's 2-1, but we're lacking in energy and Leicester are back in the game, you know, and it's not looking good. All of a sudden, you bring some of the youngsters on, gives you a bit of energy. They know the way we play, but then they can still, you know, the level doesn't drop off, because too many times we brought players on and the levels dropped off again, especially in the wider areas. So I'm looking for more of the same. I want to see Solomon again. I'm not impressed at him one bit since he's come back. I do want to see what he can offer, take another look at him. And I want us to be ruthless. If they're not good enough, we need to cut them. I know it's early days and we could probably see more from players like him, but at the end of the day, at this level, it's either make or break. So I want Spurs to be ruthless. Even if they think someone like Bentancur is not their guy, Kulusevski's not their guy, do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what we feel like. If the club have looked at them long enough and said, look, we're gonna be able to command a fee from some of these players, and that can help to strengthen our squad or improve the starting 11. And these players that we're bringing in are better than the Kulu, or better than the Bentancur. Then sometimes you need to sell when the stocks are high. Don't let the club get to the point where we sell players and we're getting next to nothing, like we've seen with a few players. Already, fans are complaining. Look how much ESR is going for. Look, they're getting money for. Look, Aston Villa selling players for X amount of players, and then they're reinvesting it. Do you know what I mean? Like Diaby's gone for 60 mil. And look, they're able to use that. So we need to be smart, but we also need to be ruthless, and we need to exploit, because there's no more PSR, FFP. Look, everyone's managed to get around it. So we need to play with the game that, you know, our competitors are playing, and we need to move and act fast. But also, I think club can't panic, because sometimes the club panics and we move a bit mad. Stick to the plan. You lot said you've been planning from time and you've got your targets. Stick to your plan. Don't listen to us fans. Do what you need to do, and that's it.
Right, I don't know. Have you got a few? Because David's going to go now. I'm not sure if you've got to leave though, Ash, because I can see what the time is.
The time is ticking. I better leave, but
right. Can I thank you? Can I thank you for coming on today? Thank you very much, chat. I hope you've all appreciated Ash and his views. I today have been a man of few words, because I've brought these two gentlemen on to answer the questions, and they've been absolutely brilliant. So can we thank Ash, please, people in the chat? I have put Ash's link for his in the description, as well as Dave's. Ash, when are you next on, and when you're next going to be about, so these people can all know?
So I might be on a show. I just need to wait for the confirmation. I think I'm on Adrian's show Sunday. I'm not sure if it's this Sunday or if it's a Sunday in general, but
yeah, Sunday's normally 8 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday.
Yeah, so Tottenham Diehards, Adrian. There's a possibility you'll be on that show, and apart from that, I've got my show as per usual on a Tuesday, and I do a rival show on Wednesday. So Spurs Kings TV is where you can find me, guys. And we're looking to do things slightly different, because we are trying to do memberships. We've already just started it. We're just getting our head around it. And we want to do something big for the members. I've got some plans, and hopefully we can execute it. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
No, big brilliant.
Jose and Dave, love as always. Good to see you. Good having that chat. Good having a debate. And thanks for the love, everyone in the chat, man. Obviously, in Andrew Trust, come on, you Spurs. Peace and love.
Thank you very much, Ash. Take care. So, Dave, your thoughts on the Vissel game, and what would you like to see, mate?
First of all, I'd like to see Ange change up that front line. I'm sick of seeing Son, Werner, and Johnson as a front three. It doesn't work. When are we going to realise this? You know, and there is things Ange can do. He can look at bringing Mikey Moore in on the right wing to see if it's more productive. He can give Kulu a chance up front to see if it's more productive. You know, right now we seem to have to score the same type of goal, and I'd argue that's because we're limited with Werner and Johnson out wide. The only thing they can do is get to the byline and put it across, you know, the 6-yard box. They don't have the ability to be able to cross the ball from different angles out wide. They don't have the ability to be able to cut in and bang one into the top corner. So for me, I want to see a change up in that front, and I want to see different options. Of course, Son's going to stay in it, but we all know, and by the way, again, this is something I was saying all last season when no one was. Son is better off the left wing. Everyone tried to pigeonhole as a striker. He's so much better off the left wing. He needs to play there. So try and find the right combination up front and out on the right-hand side with what you've got until we bring in, or hopefully we bring in the reinforcement. So I want to see that change. And then you'll see Tottenham's dynamism in the attack change where we don't have to go and score the same goal. I want to see Bergvall in that midfield ahead of Maddison. You know, A, get Maddison to pull his finger out, but B, Bergvall showing him how to do the job, constantly getting on the ball, uses the ball very well and gets us moving forward. I want to see more of that. Look, I don't want to see any more of Skip and Archie Gray at centre-back, but unfortunately we're limited. And, you know, Ashley Phillips isn't going to get a full 90 into his legs in fear of injury and stuff like that with Demoni building back up fitness and stuff. So that's why we're only seeing Ashley Phillips play 1 minute, half of football. But, you know, once Dragosin arrives on tour and stuff like that, I want to see Ollie Skip, you know, nowhere near at centre-back. But, you know,
sorry, Dave, has he not arrived today, Dragosin?
I don't know. I don't think he's arrived for this game.
Okay.
Maybe he has. Maybe he has. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he has. Right. But yeah, mainly up front is my big issue. I think that's where a lot of our problems stem from, especially defensively. I know people are going to say, Dave, that's mad. How can you say that? But I've always argued if we're more potent up front and you take you create opportunities and take them, and you're in that spell of possession, you know, you score goals and you kill teams off and you don't leave them in games the way we were leaving them in games last season. And also when you're just tapping it side to side and not actually trying to penetrate, eventually teams cop on. They're smart enough to go, right, go and press him. He's a bit weak on the ball. As soon as you do, take that ball off and one ball straight in on the centre-backs, which doesn't help. And because we're playing so safe, you know, it sucks everybody in. And that's why we're being caught out. So that's why we need a much better forward line. So I just want to see Ange change things in that regard. And then it'd be interesting to see who's going to battle out for number 2. You know, we haven't seen anything of Fraser Forrester right now. He's 36 years of age. Is it going to be Gunter? Is it going to be Brandon Austin? It'd be very interesting to see. It's not going to be Josh Keeley because he's with the under-21s. He didn't get brought at all. So, you know, it's between Gunter and Austin for number 2. Apart from that, you know, there's not much more I think we are really going to expect to see from Ange Postecoglou, because he's not going to change his approach to the game. He's not going to change his tactics to 3 at the back like many people want, which, by the way, I don't understand considering everybody had a problem with it underneath Antonio Conte. So for me, I just want to see, you know, the personnel in that forward line change. That's the biggest thing I'm looking for, Jose. You improve that, we'll start challenging.
Fantastic. Right, so just a couple of people have popped in because I'm trying to make sure that I grabbed everyone that's popped in. And you've got Couvers here saying, how do you manage guests of this quality, Jose? Massive brown envelopes. Big up, everyone. Big up to you, Couver. Nice to see you back, sir. And also Nick Brown's come in and says, I hope we don't sign Rafinha. Not good enough in the final third, and I find him selfish. He doesn't seem to like setting up an easy pass for goal. David, thank you very much for coming on today. I felt that the 2 guests that I got today, and this is for the chat, I felt the 2 guests I got today, Dave does a lot of work on his channel with the young uns, with the academy players, so knows the players more so than a lot of the community does. I'm not saying he's the only one, but a lot more than the community does. And with Ash gets deep into the technical side of it and that. And I just thought that you two would bounce off each other today in guests that could give us all an update on what the preseason and what's happened and what may happen in the future. So thank you very much, Dave, for coming on today. I appreciate your time that you've given up for me, sir. It's been a while since I've had you on, so I'm really happy. Can you tell people where they're going to find you, what shows you got coming up and stuff like that? Although I've got your link in the description as well, Dave.
No, look, first of all, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully, I didn't let you and your audience down, Jose. Hopefully, they enjoyed
never.
My contribution. Second of all, I'm no you expert whatsoever. I've no connections to you people with inside the club. I just give my opinion of what I see. That's all that is. And then last of all, what's coming up on the Irish Hotspur? Well, I'll tell you right now, guys, we got a debate show kicking off at 7 p.m. I think it's very interesting. We've got Johnny, if anyone's seen him around on different channels, Tottenham on Tour, Spurs Talk Show. I have him on, and then I have a guy called Sam on as well. You would have seen him on our fan shows. And what we're going to discuss today is Ange's youth movement. Is it genuine belief in the talent from Ange Postecoglou, or is it a board directive? Also, the youth players at Spurs, is it a succession plan for the future or a future profit scheme? So if you want to get in the comments and have your say on that, make sure you set your alarm, 7 bells. Follow me over at the Irish Hotspur. But that's what we've got coming up. And then we'll have some short video out for you guys in the morning to maybe feast your eyes on over a cup of tea and that. But most important, guys, if there is anyone new here, make sure you subscribe to Jose. He's an absolute gentleman. Absolutely, a really good time for the guy as well. So, make sure you smash the subscribe button here and smash the like button.
You're too kind. So that's in an hour's time, chaps and chapettes. So ladies and gents, in an hour's time, the Irish Hotspurs, for those that haven't subscribed, the link's in the chat. Get over to Dave. Show Dave some support in an hour's time. It's you and 3 others, isn't it? You, Jack, and 2 others. So there'll be four people on there. So Dave and Jack, who run the channel, and the 2 guests that David just explained. So yeah, it's well worth going over. I'm also a member of the Irish Hotspur, and I would encourage people to become members there as well. You'd be mad not to. There's lots and lots of content that Dave and Jack
there's
provide
more
for members.
More coming.
And there's more coming. There we go. But no, David, thank you very much for today. And any last words from you?
No last words from me. Look, I get everyone's frustrated with what's going on at Tottenham. Don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be. There is a legitimate air of concern out there. I 100% get that. But look, hopefully we get the signings done, and then everyone can sort of fans unite, get on the same page, and hopefully give the squad a chance, and they give us a chance to be able to be happy this season. That's all I want, At the end of the day, only signings going to make that happen. So hopefully the board can pull their finger out, deliver the right quality signings. And Jose, for once, for the first time since Pochettino, we can all be in unison and sing Kumbaya.
I was waiting for you to come up with come on, you Spurs. We never. And I was expecting to say all that, and you come out with something totally different. I was leaving the punchline for you, sir.
Well, look, come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange, we trust. We never stop.
That's the one. And thank you everyone for watching. Take care. Get on to Dave's show in an hour, the Irish Hotspur. Thank you, everyone.